They only play that music because I'm old. That's old music nowadays, so they play that because I'm old. Man, it's great to see you guys tonight. I just want to take a minute and say, thanks for letting me do this. Really, I mean that. This is a big deal because people would do a lot of things to get an opportunity to stand in front of a group of people that when I look at this, I can easily spot 40 or 50 people that are more qualified than I am to do this. So I'm really honored by it. Of course, I appreciate Scott and Pastor Bill for letting me, but I want to say thanks to you guys for just being faithful and showing up and doing what we do. So thank you. We're going to talk a little bit tonight. We're doing Psalm 5 and 6 tonight. And it shouldn't be too awful long or drawn out, Kaylee. There's a lot of shoes to move. We got things to do. It's kind of funny. I was looking at these up here a while ago, and Corey told me, she said, I think half the stage just sitting out, there's like 150 pairs of shoes, like from here over to there. Is that about right, Corey? Yeah, okay, from right here over. This is probably just enough shoes to put shoes on all the people in Tulsa that really, truly don't have any, just what's up here. And this is just a small representation of what y'all did as far as bringing and participating and that kind of thing. Psalm 5, let's get started in this. We talked last week that as leaders, we never take a day off. Leadership never takes a day off. So we gave that little example of a shepherd building a sheepfold and laying across the gate. That's who we are. As leaders, that's who we are. But when you're working that hard, when you're serving to the maximum of your capability, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, okay? So God provides His Word to do that for us. Everybody can receive healing. God heals every time. There's no question about it. So we know physically we can be okay. And mentally, for those challenges that come up, and some people even have mental illness that goes along with that, guess what? God just doesn't heal cancer, okay? God heals mental illness, and He helps us stabilize our emotions and be the kind of people that He's calling us to be. He provides healing for all that. And so physically, emotionally, mentally, we're covered. To be an exceptional leader, each area of your life, out of those three things, has to be functioning properly, or you got to have it under maintenance. Because you know what? Katie knows, and I know, and Tim knows, and Daniel knows, sometimes we just get a little dinged up in the process, okay? We'll catch a flu bug, or we'll get down in the mouth, maybe tempted by depression and those kind of things. Man, God's got a way out for all those things. He provides that. So you got to be maintaining, or you got to have it on the run all the time, okay? Psalm 92:13, everybody that attends this church ought to be able to quote that verse. But those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish in the courts of our God. That's what we're talking about. We plant people in this church by connection. We don't plant them by looking over the crowd and reading resumes and looking at stuff and saying, oh man, Nathan Dowler's the right guy to serve here. No, we just say, hey, you, come here, get in, okay? We connect, we make friendships, we bond with people. That's how we do it. And we get them involved. I can tell you for sure, Scott Houston can tell you for sure, that the way that this church was built was by volunteerism. By people giving of themselves and their time to weed eat and sweep floors. In those days, I'm telling you, we were in a facility that we could sweep it 5 days a week and it would never get clean. It was always, we got those, I've told some of the guys here on different times, the building leaked so bad around the bottom edges. Remember that, Scott? It leaked so bad that we discovered, Tom, those pigs that you can put around like a barrel of oil or something in a shop. So when it's leaking, those pigs absorb it. Just big absorbent rolls 4 or 5 feet long. We would line the sanctuary and the kids area and everything with those, because they would absorb like 100 gallons of water each. And you could kind of keep it so people weren't waiting to get to their seat, or the band didn't get fried when they picked up their electric guitar and standing in ankle-deep water. So we did those things. We have those same kind of opportunities here, and those people who participated in this, let me tell you something. There are 3 generations of Seltzers that go to this church because of that mom and dad's connection to doing what they had to do to build out areas for kids to be able to have a place that was safe and clean and environmentally friendly to be able to come in and learn about Jesus. I was talking to Daryl Heffley this morning, 3 generations of Heffleys. And I'm telling you, these are men who would unashamedly tell you, I didn't know I was going to make it, let alone did I ever dream that we'd be 3 generations deep. And then you got the Houstons that start with the Houstons, they branch out to the Kings and the Schaefers, and there's 3 generations of Scott and Vanessa here. Those are big deals, and that didn't happen by accident, okay? So I'm just telling you, today people have more of a tendency to say, you know, if I want to serve 1 hour a month, then that's all that I can commit to, okay? We'll take it. If they say I can serve every service, hey, we'll take it. There are people that we have to say sometimes, you have to have a job. We're not paying you to be here, and you're here like 60 hours a week. You got to have a job. That's a good problem to have. We want to do that. So what we're talking about here as leaders is that ability to go out and connect those people to serving in the house. So if they're your friend, it is an easy catch. It is shooting fish in a barrel to get them to play on your team. Okay? If there's someone that you just met, and you know, we have this Holy Spirit that provides this discernment for us that you can tell by someone's countenance when they're struggling. You know, you meet somebody for the first time and you can tell they're kind of in the weeds. The best thing you can do is get them in. Get them in. Because God reaches people at Getz Church. And it happens all the time. So we baptize people today. We can fill this altar. Every time Pastor Bill gets up here to preach, we can fill this altar with people that realize something's missing in their life and they got to get reconnected, or they have to connect for the first time. We all have a responsibility in that. And especially as you view yourself as a leader, I want you to think about Luke chapter 7, okay, and the Roman centurion. And write that down. Don't go look for it right now, but write that down. Luke chapter 7, that Jesus is on his way because he's heard there's a sick kid, okay, or there's a sick servant. So he's going. He's headed that way. And this Roman centurion, all these people loved him. They said, you know, he loves us. He's the occupying force in our land that God gave us. He's the occupying force, but he loves us. He even built a synagogue for us. And so Jesus is letting all this click. And this guy sends people out to him who say, listen, here's what our commander said. I'm a man placed under authority. Okay? Understand what that means. God placed him in a position of authority. He understood that. He got that. And he said, and I have people that I tell them to go and they go, and I tell them to come and they come, and I know what authority is. And at your word, you can fix all my problems. I know you can. Okay? That's the idea that we have to have. You are people placed under authority as a leader. That God has given you a venue and a platform to help affect other people's lives, to be that conduit of the Holy Spirit to get to them. He has placed you in that leadership spot, and you can't despise small beginnings. Because you may be the parking lot person, or you may be the preacher. It doesn't really matter. God has placed you in the authority that you're in. And you have to learn and be well equipped to tell them to go and they go, and tell them to come and they come. Your yes is yes and your no is no. And be a leader that people can understand and respect, not for you, but because you can help them connect with God. Okay? So your mission is not to be the best boss, be the best supervisor, be the best manager, because we already know those are titles. We want to be the best leaders, the best under-shepherds that we can be, because one big benefit that we have here is we have really strong leadership from the head. Really strong leadership from Pastor Bill and Pastor Sandy that we don't have to figure out everything. You got somebody working on your behalf, a real person working on your behalf to help come up with ideas and programs. You've got a staff of people here at the church. We have people that we have contracts with. We have people that just serve as volunteers that are all here to provide that, help you provide that connection from you to the next person. So that is how we keep ourselves emotionally, mentally, and physically stable and strong to be able to lead, is by connecting to this local church. Okay? Skytook, when you hear this, it's the same thing for you. Different campus, same motivation. Different campus, same commitment. Different campus, same doctrine. Connect people. That's all we have to do, is we just have to get them connected, and then God can do the work that He wants to do. We need to flourish in our spiritual and private lives. We discussed that we have to figure out a way to keep ourselves up. Like you have to be up as a leader, okay? This works on your job, and it works in your classroom if you're a teacher. Do we have any teachers in here? Any classroom teachers? I love teachers. They hated me. I'll just tell you, they hated me when I was a kid, but I love them. They probably love me now, Scott. Now that I'm old and stuff, they're probably okay. Because I pay taxes, which ultimately benefits them, right? So they probably love me now. But so we want to be planted in the house of God. That's going to be one of the ways that we flourish. The devil hates your connection to the local church. He hates it. Because you have really, really two options. Right, guys? You can see this. I can be connected or I can be disconnected. And when I'm disconnected, I'm isolated. That's where the devil wants you. When he can get you isolated, when he can get you to isolate yourself and not participate and not be a friend and not be a coworker and not be a teammate, when he can get you to isolate yourself, he's won a huge victory there, because it's easier to invalidate you. Now, our human side, our flesh side, we want to be valid, okay? I'm a man that doesn't waste other people's time because I respect their time. And I don't want people wasting my time because I respect my time, okay? The way that that becomes invalid is when the devil can isolate me to myself and I'm wanting to reconnect, so the next time I run into Matt Surratt someplace, I can occupy all of his time going, you know what my problems are, Matt? I can't figure it out. And I know you're an elder in the church, and you can help, you know, blah, 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 and weigh him down with all my stuff that are really symptoms of I've isolated myself. I've allowed myself to become isolated. So we're much easier to invalidate. And as a leader, if you're invalidated, go pick up a broom and start sweeping the floor, because you're done as a leader until you get yourself back on track, until you let God work in you and get you back on track. If you're invalidated, just go do something else. Go find something else to do. So don't be offended by that. It's plain and simple logic, okay? So if you're going to lead, you've got to be valid. You've got to be, I want to say, trendy and up to speed enough with what goes on in the world to know how to speak to people and how to have them speak back to you. And when you're just spending all your time isolated, you can't keep up. You can read all the Facebook you want to. You can do all the online research you want to, everything else. But you got to get yourself connected with people so that you stay valid. Who's the last person you know who left a church and is better off than they were when they were there? Because what people will say is, well, you know, I'm not getting fed, so I'm going to go someplace and get fed. Oftentimes, they're really just looking for the back door. They're really not looking for another church. They're looking for, I don't want to be accountable. I don't want to be connected. I want to be isolated. I want to be to myself. I want to figure out my own stuff. Like, my relationship with God is so great, I don't need that. And God said, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together. So you're automatically in sin when you decide, I don't have to do that, I can do it online, I can do it other places. No, you need to come and you need to participate and you need to connect and you need to connect other people. So if you think about it, people that you know that have left their church, that don't automatically reconnect someplace else, it doesn't take very long before they're in trouble, right? Whatever their trouble is, they're getting divorced or they start drinking or whatever their deal is, they just slide and slide and slide a little further away. And it all comes from this isolationism, this dislocation, this opening yourself up to every attack of the devil because you're not connected and you're not keeping yourself up. Luke 15:4, what man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one which is lost until he finds it? You've got 100 sheep and one of them gets away, and you're a shepherd. You are trying to figure out a way to herd these 99 up, keep them safe for a minute, and then run to find this other one that got away. Okay? That's just the way things go. Are we running after people that we know disconnected from their church? I don't care if it's Guts Church, whatever church. Do we run after the people that we know in our life and get them back in the body of Christ? That's what we have to do. We've got to go get them. You're planning, if you know that one has strayed, you got to go get them. You're planning, you're sowing, you're reaping as you're doing that. And a big part of that planning has got to be your tithing. Now, this isn't a lesson on tithing. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to get you all to connect the dots to know if you're going to be involved in a local church, the Word says you give into that house so that everything can be full, so that we can do a DC, so that we can build better facilities for bigger crowds. Because let me tell you something, you get standing room only in Skytook, you got to be thinking about brick and mortar now, right? Like Kaylee and I are thinking about a roof and walls and bigger, right? That's what we got to think about. So as we're doing these things, we have to tithe to help that happen. Like you're bringing it into the storehouse, okay? If this is your local church, this is your storehouse, you got to plant in your storehouse. You got to make sure that the storehouse is full. Be careful you don't begin to feel contained by what is blessing you. People will get sideways in their church because they feel like there's no up for me. There's no place left to go. There's nothing else for me to do. You know what? It just could be that God gave you the job He wants you to do for that time, and our thinking starts to be, oh, I've got this figured. I got this on the run. I can do something more. Maybe what you're supposed to do is do what God put in front of you. Maybe you need to be that commander that says, I tell them to go and they go, and I tell them to come and they come, and he's doing his job. Now, the natural thing would be he's thinking, well, if I really do this well, they'll give me more people to tell to go and come and all that, and I'll get bigger and bigger. No, man, God established that authority, even though that was an occupying force in the land of Israel, the land of God. He established that guy's authority because he built a synagogue, right? Like if his authority wasn't established in that area, he couldn't have said, build a synagogue, which ultimately got people connected with God again. So those are the things we have to think about while we're doing this. If you feel that your opportunities are pulling you away from the church, then you need to do an immediate check of your root system. So let's say we go to church every Sunday, every Wednesday night, every time the doors are open, we're here. Nathan Dowler and I are here all the time, so we're here, we're good. But then Nathan and I get another opportunity to go build houses. And it's great business, and we're making a lot of money, and the next thing you know, we got to work Wednesday nights because we're just so dang busy, right, Nathan? We're making so much money, we got to do that. And then we realize, man, if we could hang drywall on Sundays, we'll get even further ahead, then we can start another new house. And the next thing you know, you're isolated again, okay? So you let this blessing that God's put on you, you let this stuff that God's laying in front of you to bless your home, to bless your family, to bless you as an individual, become a distraction to what got you there in the first place. Okay? So my dad used to always use that old saying, and a lot of folks in here will connect with this. You got to stay with who brought you to the dance. Right? Like I don't get there and go off with somebody else. I got to stay with who brought me to the dance. Man, when God has laid these blessings in front of you and you decide you know better, you know faster, you know stronger, and you go that direction, again, isolation. You're pulling away from where you're supposed to be. So that doesn't mean that we can't be really successful church members, attenders, and Christians. Of course you can. But you got to do it God's way and in God's timing, and not the way of the world, not the way that we think is best, but the way that God lays it out is best. You can't separate your leadership and the success of that leadership from your church, because the way that you found this connection and this anointing and this placement of your leadership is through your church. Okay? So I'd love to tell you that it always works that way. There are some people who are very successful and then come into the church. But what you typically see when they do is an even bigger acceleration of that success. Okay? So Tom Moneypenny and I can run the best shop in Tulsa and be the greatest at it and be making parts for everybody and just cashing checks faster than we can say grace over them, and disconnect ourselves if we're not very careful. So what brought us to that point is our connection to the church. As we stay involved, that connection continues to grow. Psalm 84:4, blessed are those who dwell in your house, they will still be praising you. All right? Blessed are those who dwell in your house, they will still be praising you. Mercies that we receive from our connection to the church, a place of constant encouragement. Verse 3, Psalm 5, verse 3, a place of constant encouragement. It is tough in this world when you don't live like the world. It feels like you're fighting everything all the time. When you got to go out and get in that and wade that swamp, all you can think about is getting back and getting cleaned up. So that's the place of constant encouragement that your local church will provide you. Prayers are answered. They're the results of worship towards God's house. So when you have a problem, when you're having a particular leadership problem, because I would love to tell you that all you got to do is show up, and because you're anointed, everybody's going to behave and they're always going to do what they're told. That's typically not the case. The typical case is people are people. People are sheep, and they're looking to stick their head through the fence, right? They're looking for a hole to get out of, to go do whatever it is that they think is the better thing to do at the time. So you're going to need that constant place of encouragement and your prayers to be answered, because when you are having a problem at work or with your team here at the church or with your job here at the church or with whatever your issue is, with your kids at home, whatever it is, you got to be praying about that. Verse 8 talks about uncomplicated guidance. Let's read that real quick. Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before my face. That is uncomplicated guidance. If we provide that to people, you know, you can lead 1,000. You can leap any wall. You can do anything you need to do if you can get people to follow you, because you provide uncomplicated guidance. Constant victories, verse 11. But let all those rejoice who put their trust in you. Let them ever shout for joy because you defend them. Let those also who love your name be joyful in you. You have constant victories when you're connected, when you're in the place that God would have you to be. When you're leading in a fashion that honors God, you have constant victories. Doesn't mean everything is a victory, but you'll have constant victory. It'll way overcome the little setbacks that you hit, the little places that trip you up. It'll way overweigh that. And then verse 12, for you, O Lord, will bless the righteous. With favor you will surround him as with a shield. You have constant favor. When you're connected to the local church, when you're connected to a teammate, a team of people who are really your teammates, who really help you, who really enjoy serving with you, you have constant favor. Okay? So Chio can sit over there at the DC every day, and listen, what do we have? We got high school kids that come in to help, right? That are homeschool kids that come in to help. We have students who are in in-house detention that come in to help. We've got people that are serving community service because they broke the law somehow. They come in to help. You know what? Chio's got favor because she can manipulate all those people. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, she can get things accomplished that she needs done. Because trust me, when you go look at that DC in the next few days and you see what's happened over there and how straight it is, you know John, Jeremy, Chio, keep naming off names. I don't want to leave anybody out. But when you go over there and see, you know there wasn't a team of 5 or 6 people that did that. So you got people that are at odds with the world and they're at odds with God, and they show up over there just to get their ticket punched so they can get something erased off their record or maybe not have to spend time in jail. And they're doing those things for us. Man, and so when all these hundreds of families show up on Friday to pick up groceries, all that stuff is bagged and stacked and neat and straight and orderly. It's because she has favor on her life and she experiences constant victories by just being attached to where she's supposed to be attached to. Okay, Psalm 6. Now this sounds a little disjointed. David had to serve God in his own time and in his own generation. We have to do the same. What is interesting is you read through the Psalms, you read through Proverbs, you read through Ecclesiastes, you see David and Solomon and all these things going on. You start to realize the problems aren't really different, okay? The sun still rises on the same side of the sky and goes down on the same side of the sky every day. So the problems haven't really changed. We have to serve in our generation, in our time. We have to be leaders like David was a leader. We have to be leaders like Nehemiah was a leader. I'll tell you what, anybody out here a project manager or have to do project management as part of your job? Anybody? Somebody does. You got to raise your hand. Project management. Glenn does. Who else? You have projects that come up that you have to help see through to the end. You got to make sure things get done on time. Anybody? Okay. So we know all these interns have to do project management. They're scared to stick their hands in the air because they're interns, Scott, I guess. I don't know. They're not getting the full power of who they are. All right? Because this church doesn't function as well without the internship. I'll tell you right now, the people that toe up to that, and if anybody's thinking about the internship, you see Chris Hart as soon as you can and get an application and go ahead and get it filled out and get ready, okay? Don't even try to figure it out. Just go sign up. But so we have project management duties that are part of our everyday lives, and if we don't know how to manage a project, you need to read about Nehemiah. You just need to read the story of Nehemiah. So the interns that have been here since the beginning of the school year was July, I guess, when one class started. And the staff that was here then, we went through a class on project management by Nehemiah. And I'm telling you, I'll shoot you the notes, whatever. And again, it's one of those deals where it's God's word. It's not me. It's not complicated. But Nehemiah had this great vision, and God provided him the avenue of how to be a great project manager. And I'm going to tell you right now, as you're growing in your career, as you're moving on a path of success, if you can't manage projects, you're going to get left behind. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care if you sack groceries at the grocery store. I don't care if you're the CEO of a bank. If you don't know how to do project management, you're going to get left behind. Because at some point, they're going to want you to do something more than what you're doing right now. So life's like a vapor. Don't despise the opportunities to lead that God presents you right now, where you're at. Parking lot, kids' church, in the main service, whatever it is. Don't despise where God's got you right now. Because if you think the only way to grab the brass ring is to get selected as an elder, or the only way to do it is to be the guy that fills this pulpit, you're going to miss so many blessings that God has for you before then. You're going to miss so many opportunities to lead people to the Lord and to help people connect with the local church so that they can do the same thing that you need to be doing, which is growing in your opportunities and growing in your daily life. You'll miss those things if you're just trying to jump and go. I can tell you, Matt and Shannon have been going to church here for 10 years, probably, something like that. Yeah? So it's not an automatic, oh, you showed up and you're really cool, so you get punched. Scott and Vanessa have been here for 20 years. You know, you can't, it's no joke. But they did all those things, because let me tell you something. Scott Houston and I weed-eated behind that old building down there on 41st across from the Caravan. Nathan Dowler was down there when he was a little guy. Let me tell you something. This didn't happen by accident. I used to get off a third shift on Sunday nights, work 7 to 7, and go to the church, get there about 8 o'clock, and we would stack every chair that we had on that old half basketball court out there, Scott. We'd stack every one of them and sweep the floor and mop it. So if you're an intern and you're sweeping and mopping, hey, one of these days you can have a red shirt and a pair of blue pants. You know, it happens. I was down there one day. I'm going to tell you guys this really quick because it's just so stupid, Corey, that it's funny, right? I was down there and I was sweeping and mopping, and I had been in the shop the night before that was an injection molding shop, plastic shop. And there was a hydraulic leak on a machine that I didn't see was there because it was under so much pressure. It's shooting this hydraulic fluid across the shop and hitting the wall, but there's no trail on the floor. So, you know, me, right? I'm just walking through, and it's going so hard, it actually cut my jeans, split my jeans here on the side when I stepped into that stream of that stuff. Bruised me up a little bit, didn't cut my flesh, but it cut my jeans and freaked me smooth out. Let me tell you, because I'm standing there like, what happened to my pants? I don't know what's going on. So I did that, and then in the rush of trying to get over there and fix this thing, because if you ever know anything about plastic molding, when that machine goes down and there's plastic in it, you are in trouble if you don't get that thing open. Like, it's going to clamp up, and that plastic becomes like steel in there really quick. So we're in a rush to do all that, and somehow I caught my T-shirt, and I ripped it about halfway around the back. So I'm looking really good. Now I've got, okay, one side shorts, kind of culottes, right? And a half shirt like I'm an OU football player. I don't know, I was probably a little bigger than I am now, even, Scott, so I looked really good in a half shirt. And I think, man, Abby's got to get the kids to school. I get off work. It's been a miserable night. Everything that could go wrong did. And I just say, you know, I got to get to the church, stack some chairs. That's going to be good therapy for me. It was totally selfish. I didn't care about chairs or sweeping the floor. I just needed some therapy for a few minutes by myself. So I go in the building, my half shirt and my culottes on one side, and Billy Joe Doherty shows up that day with Pastor Bill for a tour of our church. And Pastor Bill thinks, okay, we got like 4 guys that can form a whole sentence at that time. And Tony's one of them, and I know Tony's going to be here because it's Monday morning, so I'm going to introduce him to Pastor Billy Joe. So he comes back there, and there I am, my purple half shirt and my one-side culottes. That's what we do when we serve, right? Is you just get as dirty and funky as you can and have a great time with it, and you have a memory that'll last you 20 years, okay? Where God really did something big in my life that day that just said, you know, Tony, you got to be smart enough to carry an extra pair of clothes because you're going to your church and you're going to serve the house of God, and you got to act like you belong, like you're where you're supposed to be, and that you're not some dude that came off the railroad tracks over here and showed up at the church and thought, if I work this morning, they'll give me a hot dog. I got to try a little harder. So every opportunity to serve that God offers us, if we skip that, if we miss that, that opportunity is lost. Okay? It's hard to double back around and get that. Now, God's blessings are new every morning. God can overcome our mistakes, and He does all the time. But, man, you can miss a big blessing and have to wait on it for 6 months in your life, or a year, or 20 years, if you don't grab the opportunities that God puts in front of you. Okay? Your demeanor as a leader, it is time, if you have fashioned yourself as a leader, if you believe God's got leadership, has placed leadership in you, if you feel called to not be a manager, not just be a supervisor, but to be a leader, then your demeanor is very important. You have to start separating yourself from the herd, because the shepherd can't look like the sheep. The shepherd's got to walk on 2 feet and wear a cloak, and sheep are little furry things on 4 feet, okay? So we can't look like the sheep. We got to set ourselves apart a little bit. You got to watch your body language, because I'm telling you, the most discouraging thing is, Pastor Bill talks about this all the time, where Paul said, don't look at their faces when you're preaching to them, because, man, people just, their demeanor, their body language is, I'm not into this, I'm just here because my wife made me come, or my husband made me come, or my kids forced me to come. You get that, you got to look past that. You got to worry about your own demeanor and take care of yourself. Watch your body language. Watch the way you dress, okay? Now, it's cool to be hip, if you can, okay? And if you can't be hip when you're 52 years old, it becomes a little more challenging to be hip. Because I can be hip with 52-year-olds, but I can't be hip with you guys, right? I'm not even going to try to keep up with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the best I can with what God's given me. My clothes are going to be clean. I'm not going to have holes where there's not supposed to be, cool holes, right? Like there's jeans now that have cool holes in them. And but you can't just be tattered and show up and be like the sheep if you're the leader. You got to watch what you say. I'm telling you, people are hungry in every area of their life for leadership. They don't want to admit it, but they're looking for somebody to help them figure out the way. They're looking for somebody to help them understand how to be better at their job. They're looking for people who can show them a smoother path to God. So we have to be prepared for all that. I said this to somebody last week, and I mean this, and it's important for you to get it. You're either part of the 1% or you're part of the 99%. And if you're going to be part of the 1%, you got to watch what you say. You got to be thinking about what you're wearing and how you look. And this isn't a style class, okay? But you got to look like you're where you're supposed to be. And you got to watch what you wear. What else did I say, Scott? Oh, watch your body language, okay? So don't flip somebody an attitude, right? Because you can do it with the look on your face. You can do it with how you slouch your shoulders, whatever it is. So act like a leader. Look like a leader. Perform like a leader. If you're in the 1%, you just can't be like everybody else. And it's hard for people to stomach, because especially when I was young and I was in leadership positions, I thought the way to do it was to be one of the guys. And that they'd like me and they'd do what I say because I was one of the guys. That never, ever works. Okay? I'm just telling you, if you're a leader, you can't be one of the folks. They're 99%, you're 1%. So be in that 1%. Some things that make us devalue the day. When we're talking about through Psalm 6, how we experience the day and how we enjoy the day, some of the things that'll make you devalue your day. Psalm 84:10 says, "For a day in your courts is better than 1,000. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness." So again, 1% or 99%, you can choose where you are, right? So if being the doorkeeper is a little beneath you and it's not exciting enough and it's not preppy enough and it's not cool enough, then you're putting yourself in that 99%, because that means you got to go act just like everybody else acts. Lack of a free spirit, carrying regret, frustration, anger, and bitterness. Having a lack of a free spirit will make you devalue your day. Again, we got to find a way to be up. We got to find a way to be excited. We're not fake. We really are excited. We're not putting on airs or putting on a false face. We're really different. Because otherwise, I got Cassidy sitting up here on the front row tonight, and I'm so proud of her. But let me tell you something. She's my friend, okay? Her husband is my friend. I've been friends with Taylor for 20 years. I can tell you that she doesn't do what she does in her job if she doesn't find a way to keep herself up. Because at the end of the day, it's sales. Scott Houston doesn't do what he does if he gets caught up in just okay, I got to go make a donut run, I got to go drop some donuts off to this place so they'll buy from me and it's boring. No, that's a guy that those people want to see coming in because he's got a product to offer and a service to offer, okay? Cassidy's got a product to offer and a service to offer. She can help make the people that work for her better. That's what we have to do. And that free spirit is the only way you can do that. So if you're carrying regret, frustration, anger, bitterness, whatever it is, you can't get yourself up. You can't, let me tell you something, bitterness, resentment, what's another word I'm looking for? Bitterness, resentment, those kind of things, right? Like if we're carrying that around, we cannot add value to our day. We can't keep a value on that day because ultimately you just wind up back in that. Unforgiveness is the other word I was looking for, and that's a big one. So everybody in here has been wronged. Everybody connects with this bullying message from the school because guess what? At some point, when we were in school, every one of us got bullied somehow. There was always another dude that was bigger, or there was a girl that was prettier, or there was whatever going on, and we all got bullied somehow. Man, if we hang on to that kind of stuff, it's going to devalue your day because you'll start thinking about it and it'll get your motor running and you got 10 minutes by yourself and the next thing you know, the next person that walks up to you just snap their head off because you're mad about something that happened to you in the 6th grade. Or you're mad because something didn't go your way at church. Okay? You wanted to do this and we wanted to do that and never the two will cross and dang it, you're just mad and you quit and you're going to go find another place to go. And guess what you find out? The next place is just about the same. Okay? Be angry and do not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Ephesians 4:26. Devaluing your day. Some of the other things. Lack of focus. You got to be passionate about the vision. Lack of thanksgiving. If you can't end the day, if you can't end this class, if you can't end the second mile in a few weeks here and give thanks for what you submitted yourself to, if you can't do that with this internship, if you can't do it as a GA, if you can't do it as a congregational member of this church, if you can't give thanks at the end of everything, then you have devalued those days, that commitment, that hard work. And that is just not a place we can allow ourselves to be. So you've got control over that. You know being here is uplifting, participating in praise and worship, listening to the word, taking notes, getting online and listening to podcasts and all those things that I'm still learning how to do. But all those things will uplift you. If you're not spending time in the word every day, Romans 12:2, you're negating the power of what that really says, which is I have to renew my mind to the things of God every day if I'm going to prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So if you're a leader, you're 1%, not 99. Start acting like you're 1%ers. Okay? Thank you, guys.